Welcome to my podcast.
So, if you tell a Spanish speaker, like, I need to wash my hair, and you use the exact grammatical structure that an English speaker intuitively reaches for, you actually end up sounding like you're washing a disembodied wig.
Yeah, it's a really strange visual for them.
Right. You basically sound like you've got a detached head of hair just sitting in your sink. And that jarring, slightly hilarious disconnect is what happens when you try to force one language's concept of ownership onto another.
Absolutely. It just doesn't map over cleanly at all.
It really doesn't. So we are taking a deep dive today into the architectural blueprint of Spanish possessives. We're pulling from this really great source text, Mastering Ownership, a comprehensive guide to Spanish possessives.
Which is a fantastic resource, by the way.
It is, yeah. And the mission for you today, assuming you're the kind of language nerd who loves understanding the hidden psychological gears turning beneath everyday conversation, is to completely rewire how you view the relationship between the owner and the object.
And I'd say that rewiring is crucial because, we're not just talking about swapping out an English word for a Spanish one.
Right, it's not a direct translation.
Exactly. The whole landscape of ownership in Spanish operates on an entirely different philosophical axis. I mean, in English, you operate with these tiny, immovable stamps of possession, words like my, your, or mine.
Yeah.
They function almost like a label you slap onto a lunchbox. And the label doesn't change regardless of whether there's an apple or a brick inside the box.
The focus remains entirely on the person holding the pen, right? The one staking the play.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's unpack this, because that brings us to the core mindset shift you have to make right out of the gate. In English, like we said, possessives are completely static. I say my car, my cars, my house.
The word my just refuses to bud.
Exactly, it is locked in.
Yeah.
But stepping into Spanish, suddenly that rigid label starts shifting, changing shape and adapting to its environment. It's highly dynamic.
Yeah. Think of it this way. English possessives are like a dog leash that has been designed specifically to match the owner's outfit.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right. I mean, it doesn't matter if you are walking a Chihuahua, a Great Dane, or like 3 golden retrievers. The leash only matches you.
But in Spanish, the leash has to match the dog.
Exactly. The grammatical term for this is agreement, but practically it just means the possessive word is constantly scanning the environment to match the thing being possessed.
While kind of ignoring the person actually holding the leash.
Yeah, largely ignoring them. And to complicate that architecture even further, Spanish splits these possessives into 2 distinct grammatical categories.
Okay.
You have the unstressed, weak forms, and then the stressed, strong forms.
Since we have to start with the baseline, the everyday casual claims of ownership, let's look at the weak front line first, the unstressed possessives.
Right.
These are functioning essentially like our English possessive adjectives, right?
Right.
Like my, your, his, her.
Yeah, and the rules of engagement for these weak forms are highly specific and structurally very rigid. They always sit directly before the noun.
Okay, so you are placing your claim right in front of the object.
Exactly. Now, when we look at a single owner, meaning the owner is me, you, or him, and her, the possessive words only change based on the volume of objects.
Volume as in how many things you have.
Right. So if I have one book, the leash adapts to singular, mi libro. But if I have several books, the leash adapts to plural. It adds an S to become mis libros.
Got it. And when we scale up to multiple owners, like the we and the you all in Spain, the leash has to work even harder, right?
No, much harder. It isn't just adapting to the number of dogs, it's adapting to the gender of the dog as well.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so the possessive words for our and your plural, they must change for both the gender and the number of the items being owned.
So it's a double agreement.
Exactly. For instance, the word for our family takes a feminine singular ending, nuestra la familia, because the concept of family is feminine and singular.
Okay, that makes sense.
But if that same group of people owns a car, the word for our car pivots to a masculine singular ending, nuestro coche.
Wow, so the speaker is constantly subordinating their own identity to the grammatical reality of the object they are talking about.
That is exactly what's happening, yeah.
That structural subordination brings up a massive syntax trap, though, which I know trips up native English speakers constantly.
Oh, the article trap, yeah.
Yes. When you use these weak forms directly before a noun, you absolutely cannot use a definite article, like no, there, no a.
Right. Saying the equivalent of my friend, mi amigo, is correct.
But trying to say the my friend, like dropping an L or lock in front of the possessive, is a strict violation of the rules.
Completely. Grammatically speaking, unstressed possessives and definite articles occupy the exact same real estate in a Spanish sentence.
Okay.
They're essentially competing for the same functional job, which is determining the noun, so you get one or the other.
You can't have both.
No. Allowing both to sit in front of the noun fighting for dominance creates a syntactic crash. The sentence structurally buckles.
Wait, I want to push back on this agreement concept for a second because there's a very specific trap here with the word sue.
Ah, yes, the Sue trap.
Yeah, which translates to his or her. Let's really clarify this gender rule. Let's say a woman owns a house.
Okay.
In English, we say her house. The her acts as a massive billboard telling us the owner is a woman.
Right.
In Spanish, it's su casa. So am I saying su casa because she is feminine?
See, you are falling into the classic English speaker trap right there. You use the feminine form of Sue entirely because the house is feminine. The word for house dictates the ending of the possessive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If that same woman owned a car, a masculine object, the possessive flips to masculine.
Even though the owner is a woman.
Even though the owner is a woman. And if a man owned that same masculine car, the possessive remains exactly the same.
So the possessive word itself is entirely blind to the gender of the owner.
Completely blind. It only has eyes for the object.
Okay, but if Sue is completely blind to who actually owns the object, how on earth do people not get confused all the time? I mean, that seems like a massive flaw in the system.
Yeah, we have definitely hit the linguistic traffic jam.
Traffic jam. I like that.
The word Sue and its plural form are incredibly versatile, which is honestly just a polite way of saying they are dangerously ambiguous.
I can imagine.
Depending entirely on the context of the room, that one phrase could mean his car, her car, its car, their car, or even your car in a formal setting.
Wait, seriously? That sounds like a nightmare if you were at a crowded dinner party trying to gossip about whose car just got towed outside.
Oh, absolutely.
You're leaving everyone at the table completely in the dark.
Well, what's fascinating here is how native speakers naturally bypass this ambiguity without breaking a sweat.
How do they do that?
By completely abandoning the possessive word. If the context isn't abundantly clear, they drop the ambiguous word entirely and rely on a structural workaround.
Which is?
The preposition D plus the pronoun.
Oh, okay, so instead of saying su coche and leaving everyone guessing, they would say the equivalent of the car of him. Or, if they mean your car in a formal setting, the car of you.
Precisely. They revert to a highly specific, undeniable structural format to clear the traffic jam.
I mean, I guess it works, but to an English ear, saying the car of him sounds incredibly clunky.
It does, yeah.
It feels like you were taking the long way around the block just to avoid a puddle. Why doesn't Spanish just invent a dedicated, efficient word for his and a dedicated word for hers?
Well, you were viewing it as clunky through an English lens. Spanish views it as beautifully flexible.
Interesting.
Yeah, this really highlights a profound difference in linguistic philosophy. English loves hyperspecific vocabulary. We want a distinct word for every distinct concept.
Right.
But Spanish relies heavily on context and flow. I mean, 90% of the time, in the natural rhythm of conversation, we already know we are talking about him.
So using the short, ambiguous word is perfectly efficient.
Exactly. But when precision is suddenly required, Spanish prefers to use an existing structural tool, the preposition meaning of, rather than forcing speakers to memorize a bloated dictionary of highly specific possessives. Language values structural ingenuity over endless vocabulary expansion.
They have a reliable tool in the toolbox, and they just pull it out when the context gets muddy.
Exactly.
That is a really elegant way to look at it. Okay, so we know how the weak forms operate in the front of the sentence. We know how to state basic ownership, and we know how to clear up confusion when things get too vague.
Right.
But what if the context is an argument? Like, what happens when we want to escalate? If I don't just want to casually say it's my problem, but I want to emphatically declare that it is mine.
Well, here is where we leave the weak front line behind and move to the back seat. We are bringing in the heavy hitters now, the stressed or strong possessives.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah, these strong forms correspond to English possessive pronouns, words like mine, yours, his, ours, theirs. Unlike the weak forms that just casually adapt to the amount of objects, these strong forms are doing serious heavy lifting. Every single one of them, mine, yours, his, must change for both the gender and the number of the object.
So they adapt entirely and completely.
Yes. And more importantly, Their placement triggers a complete syntactic flip.
The syntactic flip.
Yeah, they absolutely never sit in front of the noun. They sit after the noun, or they stand completely alone.
Wait, so when we shove this strong possessive behind the noun, what happens to the front of the sentence?
Well, remember the grammatical real estate we discussed earlier? How the weak possessive and the definite article were fighting for that front spot, causing a crash?
Right, you could only have one or the other.
Exactly. By moving the strong possessive to the back of the noun, you have suddenly vacated that prime real estate in the front.
Oh, I see. Which means you absolutely must fill it.
Yes. When using a strong possessive after a noun, you are required to use an article, a demonstrative, or a numeral before the noun. It balances the phrase structurally, creating something very similar to the English phrase, a friend of mine.
A friend of mine. Un amigo mío. So we have the article up front, the noun in the middle, and that strong, fully adapted possessive anchoring the back.
Precisely.
Or, like, if I wanted to say your book, but with that heavy structure, it'd be the book of yours. El libro tuyo.
Exactly. Now, you might wonder why a speaker would go through the trouble of flipping the structure and adding extra words just to claim a book.
Right. It seems like a lot of work.
It all comes down to contrastive value.
Contrastive value.
Yeah. Placing that stress form after the noun draws a heavy line in the sand. It distinguishes ownership explicitly against someone else's. It is the ultimate argument settler.
It adds a layer of undeniable emphasis.
Yes.
So if someone's trying to blame me for something, and I reply with the translated equivalent of, it's not your problem, it's my why problem.
Right.
Putting those strong possessives at the end of the phrase is el problema tuyo versus el problema mío. It puts a massive spotlight on them.
You can physically hear the weight of the ownership landing right at the end of the sentence. The syntax itself acts as an exclamation point.
That's powerful.
It is. But this leads to an interesting mechanical question.
Okay.
What happens when the object we are arguing over isn't even spoken? Like if someone holds up a jacket in a crowded room and asks, whose is this?
Right. How do I just say mine? Because in English, I don't need any other words. I just throw the pronoun out into the room. Mine.
Right. This brings us to the logic of short answers, or respuestas abreviadas. In Spanish, you cannot leave a strong possessive floating completely alone in the void.
You can't.
No. To use it as a short answer, you must pair it with the definite article that matches the hidden object. You are basically carrying the ghost of the noun.
Oh, wow. So if someone asks whose jacket it is, I can't just yell Mia?
No, you would answer, es la mía. Literally, it is the mine.
It is the mine.
Yeah, the article la is there acting as a necessary structural placeholder for the feminine singular jacket that everyone can see but no one is saying.
Okay, I get it. And if they hold up a cluster of keys and ask if they are yours?
You answer, sí, son las mías. Yes, they are the mine. You need that article to anchor the strong possessive to physical reality when the noun has been dropped from the conversation entirely.
That makes total sense. So we have spent this entire deep dive exploring the intricate architecture of claiming things, weak claims in the front, aggressive, heavy-hitting claims in the back, adapting to the object, carrying placeholder articles.
We've covered a lot of ground, yeah.
We really have. But all of this assumes we are dealing with external objects. What about the things we don't even need to claim?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this brings us to one of the most revealing linguistic concepts in the Spanish language.
Which is?
The no ownership rule, formerly known as inalienable possession.
Inalienable possession. So things that literally cannot be separated from your physical or legal being. We are talking about body parts, legal relatives, and personal clothing that you are currently wearing.
Exactly. Spanish strongly rejects using possessive words with these items if the owner is already obvious from the action of the sentence.
Interesting.
Where English aggressively requires a claim, Spanish actively avoids one.
Which brings us right back to that disembodied wig from the beginning of the show.
Yes, exactly.
In English, you say, I need to wash my hair. But the translation for that in Spanish literally becomes, I have to wash the hair, not mi pelo.
Right. Tengo que lavarme el pelo.
And if I want to say, he put on his jacket, the Spanish phrasing is he put on the jacket.
Él se puso la chaqueta, not su chaqueta. And this raises an important question, really, about how different cultures fundamentally view the concept of self and the boundaries of separation.
It really does. Because English speakers are fiercely obsessed with claiming my arm, my jacket, my leg. I mean, if I walk around saying I injured the arm, People are going to assume I have a mannequin part in my trunk.
Yeah, they'd look at you like you're crazy.
Why does the Spanish linguistic mindset demand that you drop the ownership label for your own body?
It demands it because using a possessive for your own body part creates an unnatural psychological distance.
The natural distance.
Think about how we use possessives for external objects like a car, a house, a book. These are things you can buy, sell, or lose. They are removable.
Right.
By aggressively adding my to your own arm, you are grammatically treating your body as an external piece of property that you just happen to possess.
Wow. You're commodifying your own limbs.
Precisely. In Spanish, dropping the possessive and just using the definite article, the arm, the hair, is the ultimate acknowledgement of integration.
Because it's a part of you.
Exactly. The action of the verb usually reflects back on the subject anyway, like I am washing to myself.
Oh, I see.
So to add my hair on top of that feels absurdly redundant to a native speaker. The language recognizes that the arm is so fundamentally, inseparably a part of your being that putting a property label on it is not just unnecessary, it's philosophically backward. Ownership is already a given.
So what does this all mean? We've covered immense ground today, moving from basic syntax all the way to the philosophy of the self.
It's quite a journey.
It is. And for you listening, the ultimate takeaway is that mastering Spanish possessives is an exercise in empathy and observation.
Definitely.
It is abandoning the static, inward-looking English label of mine. It's remembering to constantly match the object in the room, right? The dog, not the owner holding the leash.
Yaps the dog.
It's understanding the structural elegance of moving a claim to the back of a sentence to settle an argument. And perhaps most beautifully, it's knowing when the bond between you and the object is so profound that claiming it out loud actually cheapens the connection.
You are learning the why behind the grammar. When you grasp the psychological architecture of a language, the technical rules stop feeling like an arbitrary list to memorize.
They really do.
They start feeling like a natural way to view the world.
Our source material asks a brilliant question that I want to pose directly to you, the listener. Does that distinction click naturally for you?
That's a profound thing to think about.
It's something to deeply reflect on the next time you try to claim something as your own.
And I will leave you with one final thought to ponder as you navigate your own language journey. If the Spanish language actively strips away ownership vocabulary for the things that are most intimately connected to us, like our own bodies, our hair, the clothes on our backs,
Yeah.
how might that lack of property language fundamentally alter the psychological way a native speaker experiences the very concept of belonging versus possessing in their daily life?
Wow. It really makes you look at that rigid English lunchbox label a little differently, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Sometimes the most powerful way to hold the leash is to realize you never needed one in the first place. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.